Hello, everyone. So, I'm Scarlett Moffat, and I'm so excited because I am in conversation with the fabulous, beautiful, and kind Cheryl Hall.
Hello, my darling. How you doing?
I'm really good. How are you?
Good. I am fabulous. I am safe. I am well. I am living the dream up in Essex. How are you doing?
Do you know what? I'm doing great. I thought my hair was on point, and then I've just seen your hair, and I'm like, that is fabulous. It's
Oh,
it's
thank
pure art.
you. Do you know what? I have to give credit to my amazing wig stylist. He's from France. He's done absolute wonders on this, and I've just got to say, I look like Medusa, Queen of the Snakes.
I love that you've casually just dropped that in, like, oh yeah, like, my wig stylist's from France. Just dead casual.
Oh, do you know what? I'm an international diva here, there, and everywhere. Just doing my thing, doing the rounds.
Now, with being a diva, there are lots of positives, like having a face beat to the gods and hair like that.
Oh, thank you, darling. Scarlett, you can't talk. You're gorgeous as well.
Do you know what? I was in a hoodie and I've put this dress on because I thought, no, I need to like up my game here with Cheryl because she always look on point. Now, with being an international diva and being in the limelight, like I say, there's lots of positives, but there are a few negatives. And I think it's really hard being, because I was there too, being catapulted into fame so quickly can have an effect on your mental health. Like, how important would you say it is to talk about mental health issues?
Do you know what? I think it's one of the things that just gets discussed the least in amongst everybody because it is something everybody is up against. It's something that everybody struggles with. Even the happiest people in the world have down days. And like, I always try my utmost on my social platforms to put out positivity, put light out into the world because there's so much negativity out there that why do you want somebody bringing everybody else down? But at the same time, it is so important to have these conversations. And I like to remind people that we're all human underneath this. Yes, I might have 3 inches of makeup on my face and a suit of armor that's keeping me safe and secure, but I'm actually quite an insecure person underneath all this, and I have stresses, worries, and woes. And I just want people to know that it's okay to not be okay, and that you are allowed to feel like a human being. You can't be on and perfect 24/7.
No, it's impossible. And I think that's the thing that people forget sometimes, especially with trolling, and not just for people in the public eye, but just in general. I think trolling is such, it has a massive effect on mental health. And I think people need to remember that when they take to the keyboard to send abuse, that we are just people and you don't know what's going on in someone's life. You don't know how many other abusive messages they've had that day.
Mm.
And I think it's just so important to remember that. Like, I'm not saying everyone has to like me or everyone has to like everyone. Don't get me wrong. We all enjoy a little bitch or two. We all enjoy being a little bit shady, but just do it with your pals. Do it over WhatsApp. Send it, like just to have a chat in the house. Don't feel like you have to sort of send it out and put it into the world. Like, would you agree?
I think a lot of the people that put these opinions and messages out online are people that are just screaming out for notice me. I want to be seen, and they feel like the only way that they're going to be noticed is through a negative comment. And I think for us in the public eye, it's a knee jerk reaction to respond to somebody that's sent hate or sent something a bit shitty. I'm not sure if we can swear, but said something naff about your friends. Of course, you're going to stand up and retaliate. It's so upsetting that you will have out of 100 comments, you'll have 98 amazing. You were great. We loved this episode. You were so fantastic. You looked great. It was so great to see you representing. And then you have
But
two
those
people.
two comments.
They go straight into your mind. And I think it's just about conditioning yourself and realizing that you are allowed to mute these people. You are allowed to put them on a hold because you shouldn't pay them any mind. I always give two comments and then you get in a mute. Like, whether it's somebody having a down day or an off day, I'm like, cool, let you say your piece. It's just gonna brush over me because I've got thick Essex skin. I grew up in the depths of Essex, so I know how to deal with a comment or two. But if you're constantly ragging on me, bye. And I'm not even going to give you the satisfaction of a block because that's what you want. You want that reaction. If you're muted,
See
you're just gone.
yeah, if you're muted, you can't hear them. That's the thing. Like, see, I have a very what I would say different approach to trolls is, and sometimes my friends and family will go, I wish you wouldn't do that because they don't deserve it. For me, I just think I have never been in a place where I've needed to push that much hate on someone and make somebody feel rubbish about themselves. So I actually send trolls messages like DMs and I just say, are you okay? I give them the number to the Samaritans. I ask if there's any reason why they wanting to project all that hate. And I would say 99% of the time they say, I'm really sorry, I just wanted a reaction. But sometimes that other 1% will say, I'm not having a very good day. And
Yeah.
so that, and it's like, and then once you start talking to them, you realize like they're also very vulnerable. And I'm like, but this isn't the way to be in a group. I think a lot of things with trolling is they want to be in this group. Yes, it's a group of hatred, but they're still therefore in a group. And
Yeah.
I'd like to think that due to COVID, because we're all together in this sort of COVID situation, it's meant less trolling because people are like, oh, well, we've got another thing in common now. We're all stuck in the house.
We're locked up. They won't let me out. Thank you, Akon.
So, you know that you said about obviously you feel like it's important to talk about mental health issues. Has anyone ever speaking out helped you realize like, oh, this is maybe I'm not alone. This is anxiety. This is panic attacks, or just the thought of somebody else speaking out on like a public platform has encouraged you to openly talk about mental health issues?
Do you know what? I've got to throw it back to the early 2010s when all these shows like Towie and Geordie Shore and whatnot were coming, and these people were being, like yourself, thrust into the depths of fame that people will just attack and bring you down and tear you down. It's people like Charlotte and Holly from Geordie Shore that are really using their platform now to go, this isn't okay. You can't be talking to people like that. And I have to say, the disgusting documentary that was done about Charlotte and the way she looks was pure disgust. And that shouldn't have been allowed on TV because that is trolling on a huge platform. And what is doing is promoting trolling and promoting negative thoughts. Like, let's be real. I'll put it into perspective. So, not everybody is going to like rock music. Not everybody's going to like pop music. But you all like your own type of music. Doesn't mean you need to hate the people that like pop music just because you like rock music. We are
Yeah.
allowed to like our own things. We are allowed to like our own opinions, fashions, whatnot. It's okay to be different. It's okay to be unique. You ain't got to fit in a box. You ain't got to fit into a brand. You've got to be you. And don't hate people just because they don't like the same things you do.
Honestly, like that documentary, when I seen Holly's Insta stories about it, I actually started crying because I thought, is like, why one day has this channel sort of pushed about mental health and about how important it is and hashtag be kind, and then in the next breath, absolutely slating a young woman who did not deserve all of the hate that she got and like I just don't understand why we can't just live in a world where we just let people be. It's so frustrating.
I know. But the thing is what you've got to do is just kill them with kindness and
Yeah,
stand
you really
up and
have.
use your voice. Because the minute you sit down and you don't say how you're feeling, you don't voice your opinions, they're just going to carry on.
Well, you use your voice for a lot of good causes, especially with trying to encourage like LGBT plus like children and youngsters to feel okay about being in that community. And according to stats from charity Just Like Us, LGBT plus young people are twice as likely to experience depression, panic attacks, and anxiety. Why do you think this is, and is it something that you've experienced?
Do you know what? I had a lot of bullying when I was in primary school. And it was at that cusp where everybody's gone from everybody's the same, we're all just having fun in the playground, to realizing that people are different and individual and have their own personalities, likes, and everything. And I had it really bad, that luckily when it should have been terribly bad in senior school, I was like, I'm good. I'm I'm ready to phase it out because I built that thick skin. Now, lots of people don't realize that we are all just the same people underneath all this. What is on the surface is one thing, but underneath, we are all just one human being, just living and wanting to have an amazing life. It doesn't matter if you're transgender, it doesn't matter if you're gay, bisexual, lesbian, everything in between. We are all just people. And the sooner people start to realize that, the better everybody's lives will be. Now, it is so tough that people in the LGBTQ plus community do struggle with bullying and whatnot, and it has that ongoing effect, knocking their mental health, making them anxious to go to events, making them anxious to go to school, because people want to find something to make themselves feel better. And they think that bullying somebody that's more insecure will make themselves feel better. No. And do you know what? I've got to say, if anybody's listening right now and is at that age at school where everybody's ragging on them, they're tearing them down, I just want you to know that it actually does get better. And the minute people mature and the minute people grow up, I remember when I turned 18, I went and hit the clubs, and I was in the same clubs as all the people that I went to school with, because I left my school and I went to a college. They were like, firstly, I just want to apologize to how I was to you in school, because
Oh.
I've realized it wasn't wrong, because you are just like everybody else. Yeah, you might be gay, but we're living and breathing the same path. And I just want people to realize that it does get better, and people do actually realize that their actions have consequences and they have repercussions, and it will come back tenfold, because you put good karma out into the world, it comes back. Don't fight fire with fire.
My dad always says bullies are like sandpaper. The more they wear you down, the more polished you become. And I think that's really true. And I think, like, also it makes you realize that you never want anybody else to feel that way. And I
Mm,
think, weirdly, when you are bullied, you are a kinder person because you know the feeling. You're just like, ever I don't ever want to feel like that. I don't ever want anybody else to feel that way. And like, see, I grew up in the north, like you grew up in the south, I grew up in the north, and when I'm 30 now, and there was a huge stigma attached to being gay when I was younger. Like, I remember I started doing ballroom and Latin dancing when I was 6 years old, and I think dance is one of those expressive things where actually it does encourage a lot of gay people to come and join in, because it's a way to sort of like express themselves. It's a way
yeah,
to feel free. It's a way to sort of, I suppose, stop thinking about everything else that's happening, to silence the noise. And I was adamant from being like 6 years old that I didn't even know that the word was an ally, but I know I wanted to be an ally for the LGBT plus community, because I heard the stories that my friends would go through, and I couldn't understand why anyone was treating my friends differently just
hmm,
because of their sexual orientation, or the fact that, they weren't typically masculine, or what society was saying that they should conform to, this toxic masculinity. And I just remember actually educating my own family at a very young age. I remember sort of talking to the men specifically in my family, and whenever they would say a joke, it's not a joke, but in their mind it would be a joke of like,
Yeah.
I would say, no, that's not okay. And I remember being so young and saying, that's not okay, you can't say that. And how important is it to have allies in the LGBT plus community?
Do you know what? Allies are the best thing that we can ask for, because realistically, there are more straight people in the world, and we need people that are there to fight alongside us, because whilst we are great in numbers, the more that we have, the better it is. And I think that goes the same for like the battle against the transgender community at the moment, that the government are trying to shut down a lot of things to do with the trans community, stop them transitioning at an early age, etc. We need people to use their platforms and use their voices and come together and help our trans brothers and sisters and non-binary family and fight the cause. And I have so many friends that are allies that are there at Prides with us, because Pride isn't just a party, it's a protest. And it started as a protest and it will continue to be a protest, because whilst we in the UK have rights and we can get married and whatnot, there is still a lot of people that will not accept us. And we need to prove that we're not going anywhere. We're still here, we're still queer, and we're doing it. So, allies are the number one thing to keep us going.
Yeah, and this is why I think that Drag Race is such a wonderful thing. Obviously, I'm straight, so I don't want to speak on behalf of anyone, and because this isn't about me. I just think one of the issues with people having hatred is that one, it boils down to education, and also it's what we see on the TV.
Hmm.
TV and media and social media is such a huge part of growing up now that I think it's really important to have people like you, Cheryl, that people can look up to, and that you're using this platform to speak out on behalf and like really help people be educated. And yes, a lot of the time it's through the art of entertainment, but it does have like it honestly, like I don't think like you just realize sometimes the effect that it has. I see on my gay friends like how much since Drag Race has become like this huge phenomenon, how more open people are. And it makes me sad because I know that there's been a lot of like toxic trolling of the stars of Drag Race.
Yeah.
what what was that like, and how did you deal with that when you came out?
Do you know what? I have to give such props to everybody that tunes into Drag Race, because you are stepping into our world and listening to all we have. Like us queens and us as queer people, we have a lot of life experience and we have a lot of stories to tell. And the fact that we can do it whilst making you laugh and put a smile on your face, educating you, it's incredible. But with pros always comes cons, and it's lovely that the fans are so passionate about the show that they want to share their opinions, share and root for their favorites. But just because your favorite didn't win a challenge, or just because your fave didn't do this or had an argument with somebody else, doesn't mean you need to send somebody hate, because it's ridiculous. Now, I experienced it myself on our season, and luckily it was only for a week, but people thought that I was being fake and they thought I wasn't being myself, and they just took what people were saying about me and ran with it. Now, that wasn't the case, because I think everybody proved that I am that. I have got an IV of Red Bull in my arm 24/7 and I'm just amped up. And I was on my favourite TV show. Of course, I'm going to be having the best time possible. But in that same episode, I showed that I was human, and I cried and I said, I just want people to know that I am a star and I'm not naff, and I can do everything I want. And it's quite funny because I've actually, what I love about British people is we're very self-deprecating. but
Yes,
in
we are.
in a very loving and compassionate way. Like, I've run with this whole mediocre brand because it's quite funny because I can set my expectations low and just exceed everybody because I always want to blow people out the park and I always want to continue to better myself and whatnot. And I actually remember somebody said, "Your makeup is so crap in comparison to everybody else." And I went, well, I'm going to prove them wrong and continue to be a stunning beauty. So I worked on my game. I stepped it up. I leveled up, in the words of Ciara, and I just went. You didn't like it? Cool. Well, here's Cheryl 2.0, the better version. How'd you like me now?
Also, I love how you always quote like singers. Like you've always got a quote like in the words of. I have a lot of friends who were drag queens. Um Miss Testicle, Emma Royd, Miss Cara. They're like local queens that I've been friends with for years and years. And what I find fabulous about drag and as a whole LGBT plus community is that you create your own families, and I think that's so good for mental health. I think it's harder, I'd imagine, when you're younger because it's harder to reach out and get those families, but as soon as you start going out and all of that, it's like you are your own little families
Yeah.
formed. And like, how would you say that the drag community lift each other up?
Do you know what? I think what I love the most is this essence of family the minute you get into a group of people. It's just, you're always looking out for people. I think I'm very fortunate that I have a very loving, supporting family. Like, my mum comes to the shows and she gets a little flip case
Oh.
phone out. She's like this, filming all from start to finish. But there are some people that don't have family that is as supportive. So having a group of friends that then become your chosen family really warms you and supports you and lifts you up. And it's just something that you just have to really embrace. And I love that I could get on the phone to any of my chosen family at 3 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning or 12 in the afternoon whilst I'm in the bath. Like, somebody will pick up and we will just have a laugh. And I know I can run everything. Like, I have a group of friends that if I'm doing a project, I'll run things by them just because you want your friends' advice and support so you're not going through it alone. And they'll be honest with me. They'll go, Cheryl, that's shit. And I'll go, whoops, whoops. I guess I'll rethink that. So you need those people around you that are like-minded, that aren't going to lead you astray, but will also lift you up in moments when you need it.
And that's what I think is wonderful about the drag community. And a thing that I want to say as well to anybody listening who maybe doesn't have that family yet is a massive support network can be something as simple as the Samaritans. So
Mm,
the Samaritans you can ring up if ever you're feeling like, that you've a bit I think people think that with the Samaritans you've got to sort of be really critical, you've got to be feeling really bad. But it could just be as simple if you want to speak to someone and have somebody listen to your story around your sexual orientation, or if you're feeling things and you're like, I just want someone to listen. If you don't want to pick up the phone, you can send an email. And honestly, I feel like, Cheryl, you're the perfect example of like, you were bullied and there is light at the end of the tunnel. Like, look
hmm
how fabulous and resilient you are. Like, how do you cope? Because I know that you just play it off and you're like, oh, I've got a thick skin, but like, how did you build yourself up to the point where it is like water off a duck's back? You're like, yeah, you do you.
Do you know what? I remember at a very young age knowing that there was something bigger and better out there for me. And whilst I had such an amazing time at home, the school life that I was in, yeah, I made the best of every situation. I was like the class clown that actually did the work, but I knew I wasn't destined to stay in this world. So I needed to persevere through this to know that I could go off to uni and study. I can find what avenue, because on paper, I didn't know I wanted to do drag until I was at university. And it was through,
Really?
yeah, it was through watching Drag Race and then having that influence my creative work at university whilst I was studying dance that I then found my path. But I'm a firm believer in everything in life happens for a reason, and everything will unfold at the right time and the right place. So, as much as you can put great things out into the world and say, I would like to do this, just let it happen organically. But the minute you start forcing it and pushing it, you're just going to get yourself down and depressed that it's not happening. But it will happen. You've got to stay in that positive mindset because you are a star, you are a winner, and you are going to do anything you put your mind to.
Cheryl, I just need you to give me a ring every morning and give me that pep talk. Like I feel like you epitomize loving yourself, but in a good way. Like it's
Yeah.
self-care. Like what would you say that your emotional self-care routine is?
My self-care is just realizing that you're chosen for all these things that are given to you in life, and you have to put your best foot forward and be on time, be professional, but be authentically yourself at any given second. Because the minute you try and emulate somebody else and somebody else's persona or what they're doing work wise, it's not authentic to you. It's not authentic to your brand. And people want to work with the person that they see and they have fallen in love with. So you've got to give them that, and you've got to give it wholeheartedly. But also, there's nothing wrong with not knowing who you are just yet, because for young people, I was very self-assured. I knew my sexuality, I knew my identity, I knew I wanted to be a performer. I knew that from a very early age, so that gave me that drive and that momentum to go. But also, it's okay to not know your path. Because when I graduated university, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I made the decision to move back home to Essex, find my feet, find my craft. And then one day I had a eureka moment and I went, I'm going to hustle and get into drag. So go through that self discovery, go through that journey, go through that experimentation of jobs, sexuality, identity, and do it until you feel like you're at your fully formed, brilliant self.
How old were you when you realized that you were gay? Was there sort of like was there just a moment where you were like, or was it? Did you just literally always know?
Let's keep it 100. I always knew, but I didn't really know how to go about it. Like, we got to give it up to Lee from Steps in that open shirt in 5, 6, 7, 8. That was the moment for me. I was like, hello. But you know, I had one or two girlfriends in my time, but it never really was like a girlfriend. It was like a best friend that I pecked on the lips every now and then. Like, I always knew. So you've just got to realize, like, it's okay to be who I am. And like, I think the generation growing up now, especially the 11, 12, 13, 14 year olds that are watching Drag Race and finding their identity, I think it's fabulous. Like, when before Miss COVID and Miss Coronavirus, we were able to do DragCon in London, and I had so many young kids come up. And I remember this one mum and her son came up. I think he was about 13, and she whispered in my ear. She was like, I just want to thank you because my son watched you on Drag Race and said, I want to be like Cheryl when I grow up. And he found his identity and his voice just through me just being a silly tit on TV, but just having fun at any given moment in time, because life's too short to take it too seriously and to stress. We should be having fun. We should be enjoying ourselves. We should be doing things that bring us joy, because I think people get caught up in the hustle and bustle of work and realize it's okay to hit pause. It's okay to put your feet up.
Yeah.
It's okay to have that bag of crisps. Like, do things
Yeah.
do things that bring you joy, because it's about balance. And if you work
That's
yourself
a
into the
big thing
ground,
as well, like the whole like do things that bring you joy. Like a massive thing for me for like emotional self-care is deleting people off Instagram, which sounds ridiculous, but for some strange reason, and I can't be the only person that does this, there was a time when every morning when I'd wake up, I'd scroll through Instagram looking at these people who looked like they had their whole life sorted. They looked aesthetically pleasing, they looked a certain way, and it would make me feel like rubbish about myself, to the point where some days it was hard to get out of bed because I would be like, well, I'll wait until I look like this, then I can live my life. And like for anyone who's not finding joy from things, you're right, like just cut it out. If it isn't bringing you joy, honestly, just
Like
cut it
Marie
out.
Kondo.
Yeah, like you don't have to like object yourself to go to scrolling through people on social media and comparing yourself. Like you just don't have to do that. And like you said, you went on a self-discovery. Like what makes you fabulous is all the things that are unique just about you, because no one is you.
Yeah. No one person is the same. And the minute people start realizing it, the better. But harping back to these people you see on Instagram, I've got news for you. They ain't happy. They haven't got their lives together. It's all a facade, because what people do with social media is they want to present this perfect life, and they want people to think that they have this perfect life. It's like putting up a shield or putting on a suit of armor. It's just their coping mechanism to say, I'm fine, I'm fabulous, when in reality, they're probably struggling with something. So just know that nobody's life is perfect. We're all going through the same things and the same struggles and the same journey. Like, it's okay to feel okay, not okay.
That's the thing. Like just sometimes I just want to hug people and say, you're not alone in feeling like
Hmm.
this. Like we all at some point feel sad. Sometimes we don't even know the reason why we feel sad, but we do, and that's okay, because tomorrow's another day, and there's nothing odd about you for feeling this way, or for feeling confused, or to thinking, am I the only person in the world that feels like this? Like I can guarantee you were not. I remember feeling like I was having out of body experiences all the time, to the point where I was like, I can't tell anyone about this because that people will think, what are you talking about? And I watched this documentary on YouTube, and it was about panic attacks and about how you can feel like you're having out of body experiences. And
Oh my
I'm so
God.
pleased that that person used their YouTube as a platform for that. Because if not, I wouldn't have went to the doctors and I wouldn't have said, by the way, I feel like I'm in the Truman Show sometimes and I feel like tingly and they were like, yeah, that's panic attack. But no, but I wouldn't have known if it wasn't for that. I felt alone. So that's why I think it's so important that we keep having these conversations around mental health so that no one ever feels alone.
Yeah, I've got to give a shout out to you, because when season one was coming out, we were both at an event once, and I was really nervous for an episode that was coming out. It was episode two, and I knew what was coming, and I knew that I was going to have this breakdown, and I knew people weren't going to like me because of the conversations. And you just reassured me and said, Cheryl, it's going to be fine. You are fabulous. You are loved, and everybody's going to fall in love with you. Stop stressing and just be you. And you were there with your mum, and she was like, I love you too. And I just remember just hearing that everything's going to be fine, because I think people get caught up in the moment and don't think of the future and that everything will be okay. So for people like you to do that and be that voice, but also I am that person. I'm like the glue between my friends, that I'm just like the one that's picking everybody up. But it's also okay to have help yourself, because you can't be superhuman for everyone.
I know, I think that's the thing. Everyone thinks that you are superhuman because you are just super polished. And it makes me laugh when you say that you think you're mediocre. I mean, I only wish at my mediocre I could be like you.
Oh, Scarlett,
I only wish.
you've been hustling longer than I will ever do, and you You are the dream, you are the ticket, and I want to be Scarlett Moffat when I grow up. Even though you're only 3 years older than me.
Right, don't bring that up. Don't bring that up.
What's 3 years
To be
amongst friends?
Yeah, to be fair, I actually feel like I don't feel 30. I feel about 19.
You look stunning, Diva, and I
Thank
honestly
you.
can't wait for this all to be over so I can come visit you and we can party.
I know, I can't bloody wait. What would be your top tips for someone wanting to be an ally to the LGBT plus community, especially when it comes to supporting someone's mental health?
I think the biggest thing that I can do is just listen. Listen to the advice of platforms like the Samaritans and Not a Phase and Mermaids and other LGBTQ charities. Listen to what they've got to say, being an ally. Listen to your friends, listen to their worries and their struggles, and then try and put it into a perspective from how would this feel if I was in this situation? And then be able to be a support, but also just know what you're doing is an amazing thing in lifting up your friends, your peers, your family, that they're not alone in this fight and this struggle, that you are there for them no matter what.
Oh, I love that. I feel like I've really tried to educate myself, especially it's something as simple as like learning somebody's pronouns.
Mm,
People don't understand like the effect that that can have on people's mental health by actually asking somebody and saying somebody's correct pronouns. That can make somebody feel so much better, not isolated, not different. That's do you know what? Like when I like I feel like now that we've got the internet and YouTube and all that stuff, like it's so easy to educate yourself, and I just feel like everybody should be doing that. Like it, like just learn about the range of sexualities on the spectrum.
yeah, 100%. And I think what I'm loving seeing at the moment is the progression in emails that people's signatures will say, like, Cheryl Holt, she, her, because those are my chosen pronouns when I'm working professionally. Like, out of drag, I identify as a cisgender male, so I'm a he, him. But it's a respect thing that when I'm in drag, it's she, her. Like, and that level of respect is really slowly trickling in, and I'm so glad to see that people are really getting on board with it. Even on BBC's Glow Up, the makeup show, on like their little tag things, it
Yes,
says
I love that.
she, her, they, them, he, him. Like, that is progressive TV, and that's what I'm loving seeing.
I absolutely love that show for that. Like it is it's breaking boundaries. I hope that everybody watching that, I mean, like producers and production companies take note and go, right, this is what we need to do. It
Mm-hmm.
would just cause so like it would just help people's minds so much. Like it really
100%.
would. Another thing for me of being an ally, I think it's all well and good sort of not adding to the stresses and strains of the community, but it's speaking out. It's if somebody is thinks that they're being clever and making sarcastic remarks, or it's saying I feel really uncomfortable with what you're saying there and I think that you shouldn't say it. It's something it's not about being aggressive, or it's just calling people out. It's just saying that makes me feel really uncomfortable. You need to educate yourself.
Yeah, 100%. It's all about educating people, because that one conversation, I'm a very calm person, and I think a lot of people listen to me because I'm not going to bite back. I'm not having a fight, I'm not having a debate. I'm just telling you how it is from our perspective. And that's why I kind of want to go on like Good Morning Britain and debate things like that, because I think some people just go on, and with the likes of he who shall not be named, who's now no longer on the platform, he would just want a reaction and he would just want to fight. Whereas if you have a conversation, people are more receptive and people will absorb the information and they'll go, I get it now. Like, I remember when I was filming Celebs on the Farm, we were having conversations about transgender issues and how transgender men still can have periods, because the NHS puts people on such a backlog of transitioning that you can identify as a transgender male but not even start your process of transitioning for 2 years until you get off the wait list. So for that entire time, that transgender male is going to be having periods every month. So yes, this transgender male can still have a period. Like, and they went, I get it. And I'm like, yes. Like, it just takes that one conversation to change. And then they tell their friends, and then they tell their friends, and then they tell their friends. That's what we need. We need more conversations happening.
Cheryl, this needs to happen. Like, I can see this now. Like, you need to go on the Good Morning Britons and everything like that. And is there anything like that you want to use this for, to say? Like, is there anything that's on your mind and you think, yeah, I want to say this?
You put me on the spot, Skull.
Sorry, Cheryl. Sorry, Chick.
Just be there. Listen to the stories of these people, but also know that trans rights are human rights, and transgender people are as much a part of the LGBTQ. They are the T in the LGBTQ, so they should be treated just as equally as everybody else. Lesbians, gays, questioning, everything in between.
Thank you, Cheryl. And I think in doing that, it will just help a lot of people's mental health issues, and it'll stop the stigma being attached to. It's just, it's so frustrating that we still even have to have these conversations. And I hope that one day we just are what we are. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
We just are what we are.
But the thing is I want other people to realize is that males, it's okay to show your emotions. Don't feel like you've got to stick to this bravado of, I'm a tough male, men don't cry, men don't have mental health issues. Everybody has struggles. It's okay. Please speak up, because the rise in male suicides is quite scary and quite alarming. And it could take one conversation to help that person before they do something. So I just think we need to stop having the stigma around having issues with mental health, because we are allowed to feel something. We aren't perfect, and just know that there's at least one person out there. And if you don't feel like there is, slide into my DMs. I will look out for you.
I will second that too.
We just got your back.
I think the thing around men as well is that obviously I can only go off like my boyfriend's WhatsApp groups and stuff. Sometimes some of the things that they chat about, I'm like, oh, that's gross, but because it's all just banter. I think a lot of time, the Daves aren't going, are you all right today? You know what I mean? It's not, there isn't them conversations, because I think you're right. I think there's a lot of, because of how it's portrayed on the media, men feel like they have to be this masculine. It's all about toxic masculinity, and I think it needs to stop, and people need to know that it's okay to have conversations within the group, and it doesn't make it any less of a man.
Yeah.
That it's okay to not be okay, and I can guarantee that your other pals are feeling that way as well.
Truly, truly. Like, you take that football changing room, at least one of them has had a cry today. Like, it's okay. Like, please talk and please voice your opinions, because you'll be surprised that that one friend that you didn't think would actually listen would go, do you know what? I felt like that the other day, and it's okay. So please talk to your friends and family.
I feel like Cheryl Hall for Prime Minister.
I'm not getting political, but I think I do a better job.
Honestly, I feel like Cheryl Hall for Prime Minister. Thank you so much for being in conversation with me today. It means a lot, and I think it's really going to help a lot of people, Cheryl.
Scarlett, anytime. You want that pick me up every morning of me telling you to get out of bed and shake your tail feather. You've got my number. Just drop me a FaceTime. I'm there for you, girl.
Thank you, chick.